Welcome to the IronTrap podcast.
Or insert whatever title we come up with in the future. So, welcome to the podcast. Our first guest is none other than Matt Murray.
We couldn't find any guests for that
Yes.
low budget. So
Yes, no one wanted to join us.
First couple episodes are going to just be Mike and myself talking to each other.
Yep.
So kind of the same but different.
Yes. So, we're going to do this podcast a little different than other ones. We're probably going to go in with like 5 preset questions that kind of are the same for each podcast that are twisted a little differently for different people. Basically, it's going to be based off of what is your iron trap, essentially.
Yeah, so the IronTrap, for anybody that's new to our brand or our whatever you want to call it, people always get asked, what is IronTrap? Where did we come up with the name? So since this is episode 1, we're going to kind of go into that real quickly. So IronTrap, I came up with the name as basically, I was looking up terms or somehow came across it's a medieval torture device, and it was basically termed as a device you could not get out of, a trap you could not get out of. So to me, that clicked in my head, and that's what this hobby is. Usually when you get into whatever you're into collecting, for us it's old hot rods, old cars, and Americana. Once you get into it as deep as we are, you cannot get out of it, and especially with antique cars and hot rodding, almost everyone takes it all the way to the grave, till the day you die. I've known people that had literally like one foot in the grave and 1 foot in this world, and they were still talking about the next car they were going to build. It's in you. So I think it translates into all facets of collecting. So with this podcast, we're hoping to eventually evolve from just automotive and get into people that collect all kinds of things. And with our second episode with Mike, it's going to be obviously focused a lot around beer.
Junk.
Old beer junk. So that's the idea. So the iron trap, we're going to use that term a lot in this podcast of what is your iron trap. What that basically means is, what do you collect? What is the thing that you're obsessed with? And
And we're going to do a couple episodes as well with people that are just in the old car hobby that might focus on a certain aspect of it, metal shaping, pin striping, that kind of stuff as well. And that's kind of their iron trap, which we'll do a couple episodes with some local people in the future. So it's not just going to be collecting. There's going to be some car-related stuff as well.
Yeah, and I think it's the iron trap term is just thing that you get really into, that your life literally revolves around, and you'll probably take it all the way to your grave. So some of the people we're talking about, like, they don't collect as much that we have in mind, but their job or their passion is their job. So their craft is their iron trap, because that's what their life revolves around, and they don't need to collect a bunch of old junk like we do. It's more creating beautiful pieces of artwork
and knowledge.
Knowledge.
Yeah, so like episode 3000 will probably be at like knitting and arts and crafts and
awesome.
and that kind of stuff.
So get your grandma queued up.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start it off with question number 1. What is your name? What is your iron trap? And how long have you been obsessed with this trap?
So my name is Matt. Hi, guys.
This is like an AA meeting.
Yeah. Hello. I relapsed again. So my iron trap is I guess I would say old cars and things that revolve around it. I collect a lot of different stuff, but if we focus really fine on what I'm into, it's definitely specifically early hot rods and customs and early Fords as far as bodies go, car bodies and things like that. That's probably for the most part what I'm really into, but as with everything, it bleeds out into old tools, old signs, and that all kind of goes back to the old transportation. So pretty much everything around here is going to be revolving around that. As far as how long I've been into it, I've been collecting old car stuff heavily since I was probably in high school. But what the type of cars or the type of stuff I collected kind of changed over the years. And probably about 10 years ago or so, I kind of like made the decision that I was going to really just focus on old, American cars, specifically like pre-war type stuff. So I kind of, before I bought my place, I kind of like started selling off all my different stuff. I had like vintage motorcycle and old European cars and parts and just like a little bit of everything.
The same way it is now, just envision Volkswagens and German cars. The
Yeah.
exact same amount and like craziness, just into
Yeah,
these
like
vehicles.
German motorcycle and whatever else. It was so I and as I got American car stuff too, it was kind of like I had everything, and it was like I didn't have the time, money, interest to handle all of that. So I went all in on this stuff, and yeah, never looked back. So it's been 10, 11 years. A lot of people think that it's like that I just meet that don't know me, think it's like multi-generation, type collection. I've literally collected all this junk
In a decade.
in a decade. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy. So you too can be a hoarder like me. And in
Yeah.
10 years, you can ruin your life.
Yeah, when Matt and I first met, it was right at that transition phase. He was still into Volkswagens and Audis a little bit, and you were just getting to that point. I think you just got the Pagoda City Coupe.
Yeah, I had that Dodge pickup
that's right, the Dodge
I built
pickup.
for Eastwood that I had for almost since I started Eastwood. I worked at Eastwood for like 11 years or something, and I got that like my first year there. So like, again, I had some stuff. I got in some 50s cars. I had a 50 Chevy and just stuff, but I really, once it started to get to be too much, I just made the cut and sold pretty much everything except for this style of stuff that you see on the channel, and that's definitely where my happy place is for collecting.
Definitely. Cool. So number 2, what was the switch that made you go all in?
I think I talked about this on another podcast I was on, but basically, as far as the stuff that we're really into, that I'm really into now, is I worked at Eastwood, and when I started working at Eastwood, I started traveling a lot, and I was getting to go to LA to go to basically visit Hot Rod Magazine and all the publications. At that point, magazines were still alive, and there was all the publications, and it was kind of like the end of the magical era of magazines where they had all these buildings, and we'd go and do presentations for the company. But what it did is it allowed me to be really I was able to experience all the different types of the car hobby, because they covered everything from tuner cars to lowriders to hot rods to muscle cars and racing. So like me going to all these buildings and seeing all these cars and meeting all these people, I met like every facet of the hobby. I got to really see like the coolest stuff. So, we would go to these different areas and be like, I'd see like one of my earliest memories where I went to like a lowrider like cover photo shoot. Super cool, and I got to meet people and see that stuff, and I still think that's really awesome. But that wasn't the switch. Really what it was for me as far as for the hot rod thing goes is we went to visit Chip Foose's shop. He does like an unsaid like lunchtime tour, which I think is a little more publicized now, but back, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago.
If it wasn't publicized, you just publicized
No,
it.
that's pretty publicized, I think. But basically, you would go, like somebody took us, you would go and you would wait at the gate, and then when all the guys in the shop would go to lunch, one of the gals from the front office or whatever, she would open the gate, walk you through, and you actually got to go in the shop, walk and see the cars they were literally building and working on then, and then they would take you into the gift shop and you'd buy T-shirts, all that. So we did that, super cool, and I visited a bunch of shops, which was super cool. But right after that, we went like right down the street. There's a little like sandwich shop. I mean, around here I call it a bodega, but it's not. It wasn't a bodega, but it
West
was like
Coast people have no idea what we're talking about.
I don't think that's a thing, but it's like a little tiny like sandwich shop. You could buy whatever. I don't really remember a lot about the shop, but we walked outside after eating a lunch or getting a sandwich, standing out, and this like super heavy metal flake red. I think it's a Model A. I can't remember anymore if it was a 32 or Model A coupe. Rolled in. I think it was channeled, chopped, sat real
There's
low.
a photo somewhere on your social media, isn't there?
Yeah, I think I did post a photo.
I'll have to go back 15 years in Matt's Instagram.
I might
and try
have
and
it
find
somewhere on my Facebook or something. I don't know. But anyways, this car pulled in. It was super cool. Dude just looked like the coolest guy on the planet rolling in. Everybody just stopped what they were doing and stared at that. And the car was, nostalgic, probably more of like a 60s style car, but just like the impact of that car and how it sat and how it looked and sounded. And then when he, drove away, it sounded awesome. I was like, that thing is so cool. Like, I was like immediately like, I'm going home and I'm selling everything I have and I'm building me like a Model A coupe. They're so freaking cool. And that's when I really started diving deep into, the hot rod side of things. Before that, I had my 50s pickup. I had a 50s Chevy, and I was like doing the like street rod custom thing, and then my 50 Chevy was like a mild custom. But when I saw that, it was like the hot rod thing, just something about it. It was so cool. And I came from, when my high school years and in my 20s, messing with the German cars. They were small, nimble. You put a fast engine in a car that doesn't weigh a lot. And I try and translate that to people that like I know from back when I was messing with that stuff in high school and whatever. It's the same thing. You're getting a small car that's lightweight. You take all the extra crap off of it and you put a faster engine in it and you make it handle better or steer better, whatever. So it's the same thing. Like, it feels just as sketchy getting in one of these and ripping down the road as it did like a 70s Volkswagen Rabbit, because
They were literally the same amount of sheet
they're
metal.
like the same weight.
Yeah.
Everything's the same. You die the same when you crash in them. So. But that was a switch for me. Like, that particular car, I just remember making me want to build a coupe, Model A coupe. And that's what started the journey of gathering parts to eventually build the Pagoda City Coupe. I bought a junky Model A coupe body and frame with a cool old Moore drop axle from a friend in Jersey, actually Rich, that I bought the meat truck from. I bought that from him the same winter, and really that body was like a used up dirt car body. It was junk. I probably have a photo of that somewhere too.
I'm sure I'll find it. I'll
It's-
insert that here.
Yeah, really, really bad. So I ended up just basically getting rid of everything but that front axle because it was a really cool Moore drop axle, and it's on the car now. So
That's the same one that's on the Pagoda.
same,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, juice brakes, everything on it was the same
Oh, cool.
stuff. And I kept the front axle. I found the Pagoda City Coupe, and then I sold that stuff off, right away. And that's when I started building my own frame and, developing what I wanted the car to be, which, is now what you see.
Yep.
So
Do you know what started your obsession with like collecting back in like high school, early 20s with Volkswagen stuff?
I've always, and I don't know if it's how I grew up. It was like we weren't poor as a kid, but my dad was frugal and like he worked a lot of hours.
Your dad was frugal? He is frugal.
My dad's super frugal.
He's
My
still frugal.
My dad's such a freaking cheap ass. It's ridiculous. Now I can tell him that because I'm an adult to his face.
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, you're a cheap ass. But like when we were kids, it wasn't like we had like all the coolest video games and all the coolest stuff. So when I started like realizing that I could work and get my own money and then have things, I just started like collecting right away. So like I was really, as a younger kid, I was really into baseball cards and football cards. So I literally have that like flipping mentality and entrepreneurial mentality since I was a little kid. I used to get the Beckett book that gave you the prices of all the sports cards, and I had a subscription, and I would every month or week read it, and then I would look at my cards, and I had a little notebook, and I would write down how much money I had in baseball cards. So I'd be like, I have $575.60 in baseball cards. I'm rich.
Yeah.
And then my dad would take me to these. Back then, it used to be like the Comfort Inn, and they would have like a baseball card swap meet or whatever you want to call it. And I would like buy and sell. I would go there and like trade a guy or buy something or whatever. So I was like collecting. This is like 10 years old,
Yeah.
12 years old, and then it progressed as it went on. So I don't know, like I've always been that way. So when anything I've gotten into throughout my life, I always want to like collect, find the rare things. So even when it was baseball cards, it was like I still have a bunch of my baseball and football cards from being a kid, and it's like, Walter Payton rookie card, like that wasn't as rare then as it is.
Matt's holding a Babe Ruth autograph
I
rookie
wish.
card on us.
I do have some Jordans,
Really?
some Jordan cards
Nice.
that are worth a couple bucks too. But like it was just the chase,
Yeah.
I was like finding these cards and whatever. So it's the same thing now. It's just gotten into things that are bigger and more expensive. And
Not necessarily more expensive. Baseball cards are starting to come back. They're pretty expensive now.
I should look into cashing them in for.
We could buy some more 32s.
I could buy a 34 5-window coupe.
Yeah. All right. So number 3 is kind of a silly question to ask you because it's all publicized out there in videos. What are the key items in your collection?
I think it's still. I get this question quite often because people are like, "What's your favorite car thing, whatever?" That's really hard to say. My generic answer I usually tell people when they ask us at a swap meet or an event, whatever I'm working on that day. We always laugh because like every time we're shooting a video and I'm working on a car, I'm usually like, we stand back at the end of the day. I'm like, man, this thing's so fucking cool. Like, and that's like at that moment, that's my favorite vehicle, or my favorite thing. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to pick one item. I have different items for different reasons. There's some stuff that, like, some friends have given me that are very close friends that have gifted me some rare stuff that are very important to me just because of that connection. I mean, right now probably is the 32 Roadster. Just it's like such a magical car.
Yeah.
So
that'd be your favorite car.
Yeah. Favorite thing?
Like, pick out a piece of speed equipment that's like key.
I don't know. I have that Marshman supercharger, which is.
Have we shown that on the channel before?
I think so. I don't know. And until like a few weeks ago, I had the only known one in existence, and then someone contacted me in an estate that has two, and I only have one that's like a piece. The one I have is an unfinished casting. It's cast but not been machined, and it's some wild intake that has like a tube on it, and I guess a blower went inside of it. It's kind of odd looking, and we can't find any history. No one else has one. The ones that I've seen that this other estate has, I think both of them are not fully finished. So that's cool because I found it literally locally, and that thing's pretty neat. It's probably my most rare piece because, like, even the old guys that have everything that walk in here, they zero in on that. They're like, I've never heard of that thing. What is that thing? I'm like, I don't know. But
I was hoping you could tell me.
Yeah, I hope you could tell me. But that's probably the most rare, like, holy crap thing. Like the Thixton intake on my coupe is, Gene Winfield sold me that. He pulled that right out of his hot rod room. So one year at Grand National LA Roadster Show, I was building the coupe, and I didn't have a high rise, and he was like, "Oh, you should have asked me." Like, okay, Gene, do you have a Thixton or a high rise intake? Well, yes, I do. I have one in my guest room, the hot rod room, and he gave me a price which was very affordable. I bought it, put on the car. So like, there's stuff like that like just looking at it, you wouldn't know that. It's a neat, history.
We'll have to write that down on paper so at your estate sale it can be put in the auction list.
Yeah, I should have like a Gene like stamping or something. Like we had Gene sign my English wheel. Like he didn't sign that thing. He painted it, and I knew the whole story. And then one time he was out here again. We were doing a class with Eastwood, and I'm like, he was like here at the shop, and he's like, I never signed that thing, did I? Give me a marker. And he's like, we got a photo of him signing it.
And there's a newspaper clipping sitting on it with when it was at his shop, right?
Yeah, there's a magazine when he does like the show at his shop in the fall every year, and I had sent him an English wheel from here that he found, and then he had just gotten it, and then mine was there just painted, and they were next to each other at his shop. Somebody sent it to me, and I ripped it out, and it's sitting around, but it's a photo of the two of those sitting at his shop, which is pretty cool.
Cool. So number 4 would be, what is the one item that got away? We could make this two parts. We could do like speed equipment stuff since you're so heavy into that, and then car too. I know the car one.
Really?
Mm-hmm. The Packard.
Yeah, that is it. Damn, you do know that. So the one that got away, the car, is also one of the things that made me kind of get more serious about buying and selling. So I went to this big auction. I think it was in Maryland, like northern Maryland. I don't remember.
Like
10, 12 years ago. I mean, I just started at Eastwood. I didn't have a lot of extra income. But I was starting to go to farm auctions, and I was like buying and selling a little bit. And I don't even know if I had a pickup truck then. I had like a Volkswagen station wagon. And I was buying and selling, and we'd fill the station wagon at a farm auction. And then I would or maybe I had a pickup truck then. Fill it, I'd go home, and then I'd list the stuff on Instagram and sell it. And I was paying my rent. It was pretty sweet. So I went to this big auction that the guy was a antique car collector, but mainly Packards. And it was this huge farm. And I didn't open my mind at that point of like just buying and worrying about it later. I always tell my friends that, like, if it's a good deal, you buy it, you figure it out later. Because
not even that, just anything in life. If you ask Matt for advice,
figure it out.
Yeah, you'll figure it out later.
Figure it out. Yeah. So I was at this auction, and they were selling like 40-foot trailers full of antique car parts because there was so much stuff. The auctioneer got lazy and was just like, all right, selling the whole trailer, and it's like full of like chrome Packard bumpers, engines, packed. And the sale was busy, but not as big as you would think for how crazy of an estate. It should have been like a 3-day auction. They packed it in one day. Auctioneers do this a lot. And they were selling, like, I remember the one trailer, they sold it for like $3,000. Trailer, you got the trailer, 40-foot semi-trailer, the contents, all of that. It was like $2,000 or $3,000. And I'm like, there's got to be, like, you could have just scrapped the trailer for like $1,000.
We could really use that trailer for storage right now.
So anyways, fast forward through the auction, gets towards the end, there's a bunch of cars. There's a Model 8 Roadster that somebody buys that I thought was cool, but I didn't have enough money. And then they're going through all the Packards, and there's a 32 Packard Coupe with the little door in the quarter panel for the
golf clubs.
Golf club stuff. And they actually got it to run before the auction. So they started it up, it ran, it smoked a little bit, but like barn find type thing, not rotten, just perfectly shitty. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I had like literally $2,000 to my name left after the auction. And that's including paying my rent. You know, like I literally had $2,000 left. I ran the auction to $2,100 and I didn't win it. And I was like, I probably could have got the money. I maybe I did have the money, but I kind of like hesitated because I was like, well, how am I going to get it home? Same with the 40-foot trailer of parts. I was like, how do I get it home? What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And so somebody bought that car. And then literally like the next week I sold it on eBay and it went for like $18,000 or something. Do you
remember what the car sold for?
I think it went for it was sold for like $2,300.
Oh, okay, right over your bid.
I was like the next bidder and it went for like whatever the dollar amount was. It was right around $2,500 or $2,000. And the dude sold it for something. It was like over $10,000. I had 18 sticks in my head, but I don't remember the number. But I like literally watched it on eBay. He didn't even take it off the trailer. Like I was so annoyed. I'm like, that dude just trailed it home, put it on eBay, just like copied the listing from the farm auction and was like, 19 whatever pack, 32 packer, blah, blah, blah. I was like, are you kidding me? Like I could have made like a ton of money. And that like flipped the switch in my head. I like bought a trailer and I just started going to auctions. I would just buy all kinds of shit. And like, I'm like, I don't even know how I'm getting this home, but that was a good deal and I'll make a bunch of money. And then you make 3 trips or whatever. And now it's evolved into our channel where we just show up and we're buying box
Make
truck
3
loads.
trips or call Mike. Be like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I need help moving some stuff.
Yeah. So that was the car for sure because it was a big chunk of money and I was there and I could have made the money. It's like, it was just, it's like being at the casino and you could have pulled the handle on the fucking jackpot.
You get up from the machine and walk to the next one.
And the guy sits down behind you and hits it. You're like, are you kidding me? So that was definitely the car. Not necessarily because I wanted it for me, but just because it was like, it would have been almost life-changing money at that point. I was barely paying my rent. So, parts, I don't know. I missed out on. I can't really think of.
I know I can answer this question.
Actually, I think I do know. Is it the Ardun?
Yeah, the Ardun estate, yeah.
Yeah, so, again, this is another time, many years later, I'm pretty good at buying and selling. I still was like, what am I going to do? So I went to the auction. A lot of people have seen the video. If you watch our channel, I'm sure you've seen the video. I'm unloading my truck after an auction, and I bought the Ardun. I bought the Ardun heads. I bought multiple blowers, Scott blowers or ITAL blowers, and all kinds of great stuff. Made a ton of money on it. Got some great stuff to keep. But at that auction, there was like an insane amount of speed equipment all going for very cheap, and I had to pick and choose because again I was like, I had $8,000 or $10,000 to my name to play with. At least then I was smart enough. I was like, hey, I got a mortgage to pay. I got to keep like my mortgage.
You had like a slush fund that you could play with.
Yeah, so I was like, this is all I have. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So literally, I bought one set of Ardun heads, and then the second set I could have bought. Because the guy that was bidding against me is a reseller. I see him all over the place, but like he's not a car guy. He definitely didn't know the real value of them, but he had an idea. And the heads were selling really cheap. I'm talking about like, I don't know,
under $5,000. I think.
Yes, under $5,000. Well under $5,000.
But there's a lot of people currently shutting the podcast off because they hate you.
And I had already bought a bunch of stuff, but this was like literally the first hour of the auction, and I'd already spent like 60% of my money buying like 2 ITAL blowers, set of Ardun heads, this, that, boo, boo, boo. And I'm like, I only got this much left, and there's like the whole rest of the day. So I like backed off a bunch of stuff in the garage, and I was like, after the smoke, and then like I didn't get those heads. And then he sold them actually Ron Sangiovanni, Ronnie Roadster, it's doing my engine. Got those heads later. He ended up buying them from the guy, and then he built an engine with them, and they're actually on an engine and running, which is cool, but I could have had 2 sets of heads.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was super bummed because I could have had them. And I was like, the whole time I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I don't know if I have enough money. Obviously, I didn't want to write a check and bounce it, even though auctioneers usually don't cash a check till like the next week. And I got home, and an older gentleman that hangs out with us, Joe, he's become a very good friend. He's, older, well off, whatever you want to say. But he's broken in the head like us with collecting. He goes, why didn't you buy everything and then just come home and ask me to borrow money? He's like, I know you're good for it. I would have written you a check and covered you. He's like, you should have just bought it all. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I probably should have called Joe. I was like calling. The worst part was a buddy owed me some money. He owed me like $2,000 or $3,000. And I called him. I was like, dude, you need to get down here with that money like now. And he's like, I'm busy. I can't. I'm like, you need to get here now. And he never came. And in reality, I should have called Joe and been like, Joe, I need to borrow some money. Can you front me?
Yeah.
And Joe would have been like, no problem. He would have been like, whatever you need. If you're going to pay me back, just do it. I could have shut that auction down. I'd still be paying Joe off, though, to be honest.
That's another testament to auction companies not always doing their job, because that auction, there was literally 0 photos of anything.
Any speed equipment. There was nothing. So we've told that story a bunch of times. Like we were supposed to go drag racing at the Allentown Drags. The night before, I looked at the photos, or the day before, and saw that there was some broken Hallebrand quick changes in the scrap metal pile. And then I saw the edge of the Hallebrand Indy wheels, which I actually own now, that were in the attic of the one building. And I was like, you know what? This seems pretty good. I should check this out. And if it's not, I'll go to the drag race and get there late. And then I got there, and it was amazing. But there was so much stuff at that auction that I missed. It was like incredible stuff.
We were talking about the other day, a set of Allard heads.
Allard heads. There was the guy that bought the Ardun heads, the other set. He killed at that auction because he has no emotional attachment, and he's strictly business. There was a pallet lot, and there was all this stuff, okay stuff. I think I bid the pallet up to like $100 or $200. There was a trash bag on the pallet. I didn't think to open the freaking trash bag, and I'm walking away after he won it for, let's say, $125, whatever it was. And I kicked the trash bag, and it was solid. So I peeked as we're walking in the next pallet lot, and there's a flathead McCullough blower kit in the trash bag. He won all these parts, which was worth more than $125, plus the blower. The dude killed it. He bought all kinds of great stuff there, and I'm sure he made a killing. I made a bunch of money. I got to keep some stuff, but if I had more money or I was thinking differently, I would have just bought everything. I would have figured it out. And now, if I got in that situation now, I feel bad if somebody's in an auction.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll be calling wealthy old guy friends. Yeah. I need to owe you for can I trade you my house?
Yeah.
It's a great business deal, I tell you.
Yeah. So there's this auction coming up, and I need $100,000, please. Yeah. I need as much as you'll loan me. So. All right, so the last question, which is actually going to be really hard for you to answer. I'm excited. We filmed this before, like a year ago, trying to figure this out, and you had a hard time answering it, and we found even more stuff since then. Oh, so what is the North Star item?
Yeah, that's another one that I would get asked quite often.
I know what your North Star item right now is, like what you've been jonesing for.
I don't even know.
34 Roadster.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm jonesy for it. That's just like I got that Olds blower engine that we bought the Beasley estate, and I was able to get that engine, which I kept for me.
Again, emotional attachment problems.
Yeah. Yeah, people think we make lots of money. No, I just keep all the profit, and we barely scrape by. So that engine was our profit. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess North Star for me at this point in this hobby is probably historic cars that have not been discovered. It's like a very convoluted answer. I don't want a car that, if I hit the lottery, it's not like I'd want to go and buy the XYZ Roadster that was found by somebody and restored. And a lot of guys have great collections. That's what they do, which is fine. For me, part of it being a North Star is that it's undiscovered and we find the history or we find the car. I want to drag the car out of it. I pay a lot of money to buy crap that is in bad condition and in terrible situations to pull it out. So the 32 Roadster is literally, that's like North Star type deal to me because it was a real deal, old hot rod, a lot of history that we're still trying to figure out. And we not found it, but like we were the ones to be able to actually pull it out of its tomb and bring it back. So at this point, anything that's North Star would be like some crazy Dry Lakes car. Or like
I know the perfect local car, the one, the Philly Modifiers drag car, the one that had the devil's face on the grill shell. That disappeared.
Satan's Coupe.
Satan's Coupe that's never been found.
Yeah, it's been recreated. I think I forget what shop recreated.
Was it Philly Modifiers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was a Philly Modifiers car. It was the Satan's Coupe, and it had a big devil on the grill shell. I think it was 32.5 window.
Yeah.
Yeah, a car like that, like local history, XYZ, that would be like ridiculous.
My favorite thing when we go into these estates, like we see something for the first time, is watch Matt try to contain his excitement so he doesn't seem overly excited in front of the family. Like, oh my God, holy shit. I can only imagine walking into a garage or something like that the first time you just see Matt like heavy breathing, just trying to keep himself composed.
I got a pretty good poker face.
It's fantastic. I enjoy it so much.
Over the years, I've gotten really good at like, I mean, not that we're like lying to the family or anything. It's just like you don't want to show your cards. So if I walk in there and I'm like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing I've ever found in my life.
I've always wanted one of these.
That means I'll pay a lot more money or whatever. So, yeah, like it doesn't have to be a specific car, but like if it had some kind of local history, Philadelphia, Reading, Pennsylvania, Berks County, like I'm really, obviously like Berks County type stuff. So there's a lot of history in our area.
Boyertown Road Knights car.
Yeah, like an early Road Knights car. Even in Pottstown, they had some cars that ran at the Convair Field.
Oh yeah,
drags in Allentown. There's a Pottstown club that had a drag car, and there's some other cars that ran around. So like, if I could find a car like that was in a magazine or in a show and there was some history, that's really cool.
Yeah.
But the caveat is I want it to be unknown. I don't want it to be like I know a guy, Hank, that lives in our area that's had this 37 with a Packard grill on it that's an old hot rod. He's in the Wheels of Time Club.
Oh, yeah. I know which one.
Hank's one of the original members of the Road Knights.
It's got the flames on it, Cadillac engine. Yeah.
So like him, like that car, he knows the history. His photos of it in the 50s at an indoor car show in like Philly or something. Like that car is cool, but it's not as exciting if I find it because it's been known about. Everybody knows that car.
Yeah.
The only thing that would be exciting to me is if you returned it to how it was in the 50s, but like how he has it is cool too. So but I think that would be cool to be like, and we've had some leads on some stuff like that. I've gone to look at a car recently that is literally that type of car, and it's really exciting. But like, it's always a process. But some of the cars you don't know until you get them, and then you start finding out. Like
like the 32.5 window. We didn't know where it went. We know Larry owned it, and that's it. There was no other information from there. And through the channel, we were able to decipher that it was a drag car in Maryland in the 50s before Larry bought it and all that stuff. So
yeah, and I think I also think it's super cool with the channel that I hope we're making more people aware of how important the history is of some of these hot rods and stuff like that. And that's what makes every one of these cars so exciting when people are finding them, whether it's me or another person that's finding an old hot rod. They're like, you got all that, the fun of finding the history and what it had and the parts it had. It's another layer to it that's really cool. And every car is so different. That's why we love this stuff. So when you find a car, it's like I could find every car is going to be different and going to be equally as exciting. So if I find a 32 two-door sedan next week that's an old drag car, that's so exciting because it's now you find the history of it. So I don't have a specific car. Any of the cars that are like my favorite cars ever are all mostly found. And I definitely couldn't afford them. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if I could.
Is there any like speed equipment that's North Star? There's nothing you would give your next unborn child for to own?
I think probably if it was like a really rare like overhead valve conversion or something like that would be neat for a V8. Like CT Automotive made like 3 sets of heads or two sets of heads that were overhead valve conversion, and there's Alexander heads that there's maybe 2 sets known or something.
There's one set that's on a car running.
Yeah,
like
super,
in
super
Lehigh
cool.
Valley.
Yeah, really cool. So like stuff like that would be exciting to find, and we've been lucky enough to finding those Federal Mogul copper
Oh,
bronze
that's right, yeah.
heads. Like those are North Star for me for sure. Now I have them, which is great, but like nobody knew that those existed because the dude got them from his father. He inherited them from his father, who put them on a car in 1940, and then took them off with the McCullough blower, and then literally second generation stored
Yeah.
them for his whole life. And he was in what, 70s?
He was like 7 years. He was up there in age.
So like this guy stored it till later in his life, and finally said, "You know what? I'm not gonna do anything with it," and he sold them. So like this set that we bought came out into the public eye that nobody even knew existed, and it's really exciting.
Yeah.
So speed equipment's tough. I think it again. I'm super fortunate and thankful that we found so much cool stuff that at this point I'm almost like
He's running out of things to buy, is what he's saying.
no, it's not that I'm jaded. Like I'm still super excited when we find
Yeah.
rare stuff. I just have made a decision, which years ago, that like I'm only keeping the best stuff for myself and for my collection. So when I'm building a car like the 32 Roadster, I'm not just going to put an Offenhauser intake with a set of Offenhauser heads, which are totally cool.
Yeah.
But like if you got all this rare crap on the wall, why put on a car that's a keeper?
Yeah.
Why do that? So that's why it's kind of exciting with the channel. We're like building these cars, and it's like I just go in my personal stash.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it would be way more boring if I was like, "Hey guys, we're gonna build this Roadster pickup, and we're gonna put a set of brand new Offenhauser heads and a brand new dual
Let
carb
me go to the
intake,"
Speedway catalog and page to the intake
which
section.
is totally cool. If you're a sane person, that's what you
Yeah.
do because the stuff's easy to assemble and
We are all psychopaths.
yeah. So, but yeah, speed equipment. I think if it was some kind of rare overhead valve conversion or something obscure, some intake, again, it's like one of one or one of two.
It's also hard to think of this stuff because you have so many different, like you have flathead collection, you have, Cadillac, you have Olds. So it's probably depending on what car you're working on that has that engine.
Well, even
You're like,
Cadillac, I don't know. Like the Rotophase distributor would have been my answer. And last year we bought that collection.
Yeah.
I bought a whole collection so I could get a distributor
and an intake.
and an intake.
Yeah.
What is it? Oh, the
horn.
Yeah, but I could have got that. They're around.
Yeah, it's true.
The Rotophase was the thing, and it's like I'm buying a lifetime collection for a distributor. Like really? That's I've gotten a lot of that stuff. So at this point, it's probably
a lot of
know.
stuff is an understatement. It's a lot.
yeah. But I think at this point, to me, it's more that extra layer of it having some sort of historical significance. This is the intake that was on the car that this is the actual high rise that was on Vic Edelbrock's car that he ran in his Roadster at the Dry Lakes.
Like the heads for the 3-window.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that a lot, but
We'll just not talk about it. We'll leave that We'll leave people wanting more.
we're still finding history. But
Yes.
we think the Ardun heads I have some pretty significant
Yes.
history in racing and Ardun.
We'll say that for the next Ardun update with Ronnie.
Yeah, but that is a exciting thing. Like it's all like bits of information, and I'm more geeked out about that than finding another intake because
Yeah.
it's like in fact I think I might have found a photo of my heads on the actual car at the Dry
Oh,
Lakes.
really?
One of my Don Montgomery books the other night.
Oh.
So I sent it to Ron, and Ron's like, I'm pretty sure. He's like, that good chance those are your heads because of the date the picture was taken and the information he's been digging up. So like that stuff is super exciting. So if I could find more items like that have
Yeah.
verifiable history, whether it's a part or a car, that makes it way more special. I mean, that's like
There's gonna be little placards upstairs. I'm gonna have to type up real small with all the
want a
story
museum.
of
Yeah.
each part. Like this was found here. It came off of this car. It was run here and there, and now I own it. And it's repeat for every
Yeah.
item.
Yeah, at first I wanted us to be a church. That's why we're.
Yeah.
That's why people message us on Facebook and Instagram because I have us registered on Facebook and Instagram on our fan pages as a religious organization.
Yes.
and
And we're only open on Sundays as well.
Yeah, and people like I did that way back in the beginning of starting the channel just as a joke, and somehow, I guess they can't really take it down because they will send messages to our fans every now and then and say, "Can you verify that this information is correct?" And people will message us and be like, "Yo, your Facebook account says you're a religious organization. Should I like tell them to change them? No, that's
right,
correct.
keep that.
That's right. So, yeah, I wanted it to be a religious organization, but maybe a museum would be more.
They're both tax exempt, so whichever we can apply for,
yeah, that would be
I'm great with.
That'd be fantastic. So
Cool. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about? Any other stories?
no, I think that's a good run here, and I think it sets the pace for other ones.
Yeah.
I think those questions will be super fun for everybody to hear what they say and what it is. And I know for me, as being a collector, those questions are really hard.
They're super open-ended, like very open-ended.
And I don't really want to give people the questions ahead of time, because that makes it even harder to answer.
Yeah.
Because like if you sit there and like think about it for long enough, I could come up with some like fantastic answer, but me just like blurting out something
just
stupid.
pull out a notepad. You've written down a 5-page essay for each answer.
Yeah, that's lame. We want it to definitely be candid, just like the channel. So I think it'll be cool. If anybody has a great collection
or knows of anyone with a great
knows of
collection.
anyone with a collection, and it doesn't specifically have to be hot rods. It could be whatever, motorcycles. It could,
signs.
Yeah, whatever it is. I think it'll be really interesting. I think it'll be cool. I don't know if we mentioned in the beginning, but
We totally forgot to mention. I was going to say it earlier, and I was like, we'll wait till the end.
yeah, if you're listening to this, we're also going to be offering it on a video that's going to show some photos of the person's collection or stuff, or even like we were referencing some historic stuff, whatever. And I think it'll add into the video, so it'll be cool that you can actually watch it as well and listen on YouTube, and it'll be a nice way to tie it all together. Not everybody likes podcasts, and not everybody wants to watch YouTube, so you can do it either way, but listen and watch both.
Yeah, do both just to help us out. We
Yeah,
would
really
appreciate
good.
it. Yeah.
But this is just another thing we're adding to our plate that would be really fun, and as we travel, it'll be cool.
Yeah, we meet so many people as we travel around the country. It'd be nice to sit down and have more of a one-on-one conversation versus filming with a camera. Sometimes you miss.
Yeah,
Don't ask the right questions.
I think we're going to go a little different direction than most podcasts, like a lot of podcasts, and I listen to you do too, like social media, like how-to podcasts and stuff like that. They're always like, if you start a podcast, find like the most famous person you can to get your podcast noticed and blah, blah, blah. We already have a following a little bit, so we're spoiled, but like I want to find people that haven't done 700 podcasts. Like maybe in our area, like our buddy Pete, we're going to do one with him. We've already talked to him, and like a lot of people in our area really know Pete, and we've shown him on the channel, but like he hasn't done 800 podcasts. He doesn't even know what a podcast is. I don't think Pete knows what a podcast is.
Pete just got a smartphone like 5 years ago.
Yeah, if that. So that's so we're going to do some people like that haven't done it before, and I think that'll be interesting because it's a whole new story. And,
yeah, I mean,
all that
what's
stuff.
nice about this is like every town in America has a guy like Pete.
Yes.
That's the local like hot rod legend.
Yes.
That has an insane collection that unless you're from that town, you have no idea who that guy is.
Right.
You're like, oh, I've been to this guy's place. He got this crazy stuff. Do you know who so and so is? You're like, I've never heard of that guy. I don't know who you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. So I think that'll be fun, and obviously they have to be okay with us showing a little bit of their stuff, but I think it'll be really fun. So again, if you have something or a lead, that will be cool. We already have like a giant list of friends and local people, and even just people with some of our trips coming up in the spring that we're going to easily be able to hit. So I think it should be pretty fun for the next year. We're going to
try our best at this.
Yeah. I don't know how often we're coming out.
Yeah, we'll figure all that stuff out in the background.
It'll be in the beginning like we met.
Yeah,
we were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Catch you later.